Brand YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us today. We have a very, high profile guest, as most people, or most drag racers at least, that are east of Manitoba, I'm sure already know, but the owner operator of Luskville Dragway, Arnie Malcolm. So thanks for joining us today, Arnie.
Hey, my pleasure, Brandon.
Absolutely. So for a few racers that might not know as much about you or how you got into it. So why don't we start talking about how you started getting into drag racing and then how you got into your managing role of Luskville?
Well, I mean, like many people, I was a kid that grew up fascinated with cars and even more so about fast cars. And it just became a natural evolution to have a fast street car and then a faster street car and then take it to the drag strip. And then watching some of my heroes race back then in 69 and 70, I decided that, this was for me. And I got into the sport and was not a good drag racer, that showed itself very clearly one day at Luskville Dragway in about 1979, I think it was, when I crashed my Super Gas Vega car. And that was pretty much, people will ask me, how did you get into the drag race, owning and running Luskville Dragway? And I often say it was by accident. And it literally was. It was an accident at the track that pretty much cleaned me out. And I began working at the racetrack, and it just kind of evolved from there to the point where we took over full tilt in 1981. And heading into 2021, we're celebrating 40 years of doing that. Now, again, after I took over the operations, I still dabbled at drag racing, but again, was not a very good drag racer. I think my best showing was, I think I went to the quarterfinals or the semifinals at the Molson Grand Nationals one year running my Super Gas Corvette. But I have been fascinated with cars all my life. And I get just as excited today watching cars go down the track as I did the first day I went to Luskville Dragway in 1970 or 69.
Absolutely. So that's awesome. I know we talked a little bit before about, your heavy workload, how it's a little bit lighter right now, but how it wasn't always, just Luskville that you were dealing with at the same time. Because when you started then, so you would have had, your full-time job at the time. And then somewhere along the way, you started operating a stock car track, Capital City, as well. And then added on some different tour events that made for quite the busy time. So, what was your, busiest year like, or what did it look like for you?
Probably around 2005, 2006. We have been doing airport venues since 1995, and they have ranged from 2 a year to sometimes 5 a year. But in 2005, we took over the operations of the local stock car track that had gone bankrupt. And at that time, my wife and I were still working our regular careers at McKesson's Canada, a pharmaceutical wholesale company. Which has another joke tied to it when everybody says, how did you get where you are today? And I often say I did it by selling drugs, and literally we did, but it was legal drugs. But in 2005, 2006, we were operating 3 airport venues. We were still working our regular job at McKesson's. We were operating Luskville Dragway, and I was approached to take over the operations of Capital City Speedway, which we did for 4 years. So in 2005, I believe it was, we had all that going on. Plus we had rented Grand Bend to put on a Napa Auto Parts tour race. I still remember to this day, Brandon, we literally, we had all of our equipment and the tractor trailer parked at Capital City Speedway. We ran the race on Wednesday night, drove all the way to London, Ontario, Wednesday night after the finish of the stock car track, ran our Grand Bend race, came home, went back to work on Monday morning at McKesson's Canada. Yeah, that was, it was a lot compared to today. And we're doing some airport races, our Napa Tour and our Super Tour, and of course, Luskville Dragway.
That'd be quite the trip for sure. I know I've made the Wawa trip where we left after the bracket and then get back, but we never made it back to work Monday morning.
Yeah, I hear you, and
Yeah.
yeah, the Wawa trip is a 12-hour trip, no matter how you look at it. So it's tough to race all day and then get home for 6 o'clock Monday morning to go to work.
Yeah.
That's,
Oh, no doubt. Absolutely. So I guess next we'll jump into some upgrades. I know you said, so Luskville's been there for just over 50 years
69.
now. And then you've had it, for about 40 years.
Yes.
So now we got some upgrades for the coming race season. So tell everybody kind of what's going on or what new.
Yeah, we're really excited. I mean, for 40 years, we've tried diligently to do something to improve the facility each and every year. And the people that were there in 1980 when we took over, they fully understand what we have done. If you're new to the facility and you've driven in last year for the first time, you wouldn't see what we had when we took over. But this is without a question the most significant upgrade of any time at Luskville Dragway, as we built a brand new racetrack per se when we laid down 1,000 feet in each lane of concrete. That'll give us, it's a laser poured one. When they started pouring, they didn't stop until they went from one end to the other. It was 3 days, 3 separate Saturdays. We did each lane and then did the middle in 3 different pours. But once they started a pour, they did not stop. So it was all done and then saw cut, what they call a saw expansion to stop expansion cracks. So we still have some work to do before we get underway this spring. We've got a little bit of paving to do around the areas that took a beating with what was going on, but no question, we're excited. We think that the drag racing community is excited. I know that your first YouTube show, you had the Acker boys on, and it was nice to see him wearing the Luskville t-shirt and talking about, can't wait to get to Luskville and try out that new concrete. And I can assure you, Brandon, that Brian isn't the only one that is excited about trying it out. And we're still not sure. We're kind of thinking that Mike Ogilvie and Mike Chenier will do the 2 first burnouts. Because we had a lot of racers play a part in what went on with this major improvement, which we've discussed a little bit on the website. And we'll be talking a lot more about that involvement and what we're going to do down the road to show our appreciations for their support,
I think that's an excellent idea. I could, a great way to christen a brand new racetrack is,
2 guys that played a big part and continue to play a big part. That make no bones about it. That Luskville Dragway is very, very, very fortunate to have the support that we have from our racing community that owns businesses. Because not only do they support Luskville with their own business, in many cases they're soliciting other companies that they deal with to join in, and it's a pretty cool deal. I mean, I like to think that we're a little bit different than any racetrack in the country, and I think that you've been there enough, and your family's a very involved family. You can see that the camaraderie that goes on at Luskville Dragway is like no other, and we're pretty proud of it.
Absolutely, no doubt. It really brings together the whole racing family aspect of it. I know the friendships that I've made since going to Luskville, my whole life, and being involved in it has, they're some of my best friends for sure, and has helped impact the way that.
I'm going to become your wife.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. That is exactly where I did find my future bride. Yes. So lots of, excitement for that. But
You know, you were talking about that you see the relationships that go on at Luskville Dragway, and I guess my comment was, and I said, yeah, and I think you're going to marry one of those relations, or you're going to get married this fall.
yeah.
And I mean, that's a prime example. I mean, there's probably as much excitement about that wedding party that there is about the new opening of Luskville Dragway.
No doubt, absolutely.
I remember when Kyle got married, it was a drag racer's wedding, to say the least, you know. But,
No, you're absolutely right. So it is exciting. Mine won't be in the right dead set in the middle of the racing season as Kyle's was, though.
yeah.
But so next we'll slide over to how we talked about, 40 years at Luskville for you of running it. So we'll talk about the 40th anniversary of the Bracket Bonanza. So
that's our baby. I mean, it's a race that, I mean, we can go back, and I mean, guys from your neck of the woods, including your grandfather and John Chatwood, I mean, they were the backbone of when I started. I mean, they were there almost every weekend. And when we started the Bracket Bonanza, it was $1,000 to win. It was a one-day event. It was come in the morning, race for $1,000 and go home. Of course, things are different nowadays. We're actually even talking about possibly a gambler's race on Thursday, the big dog shootout on Friday, Saturday and Sunday, 10 grand to win. Excuse me. And it's come a long way. It's bands, it's fireworks, it's jet cars, COVID allowing us to do that this year, hopefully.
Yeah. And that's getting, so Super Pro's 10 grand to win, and Semi Pro also is getting a boost.
Yeah.
In the payouts for the bracket as well.
Well, basically what we've tried to do is, because of the 40-year anniversary, we wanted to, have something significantly, as we, was significant with the 10 grand or 5 and 5 at the 10th anniversary at Shannonville for the Jim Parker's 10th anniversary. So we've based it on 3 10s and 2 5s. So we're hoping to run for 2 5s, one on Saturday, one on Sunday for the super semi-pro guys. Something that, they've asked for it. They've all asked for it. They want to run for some big dollars, and we couldn't think of a better time to do it than the 40th anniversary Bracket Bonanza. T-shirts are designed, Fast Eddie's printing them, and we just need some warm weather and get rid of this snow and go drag racing.
You're absolutely right. So some other events that are coming up for 2021 will be the Canadian Bracket Super Tour.
Yep.
So there's 3 that are already set for Luskville for this year. So that's Canada Day weekend, Labor Day weekend.
And I think we call it the civic holiday. That's the long weekend in August. So pretty much the 3 long weekends in the summer, July 1st, August 1st, September the 1st. And we're still working on 2 other dates to be confirmed. And we will post them. We'll make sure that we get that out there as soon as we do. But the 3 Super Tour races are at Luskville. Their dates are confirmed and etched in stone. And again, they will be, besides the Bracket Bonanza, the other 2 will be big dollar, typically what we pay at the Super Tour races. So for the Luskville Dragway racers, it's great news. Those 3 events are also part of the Napa Tour that takes place with Wawa and Elliott Lake, which both have confirmed as of this time they are a go for 2021. And both cities have said that anything can happen, and we all know that. Okay, like we could all be shut down, but we don't expect that. Things look positive, so the 3 races at Luskville Dragway will be points for the Super Tour. They will also be points for the Napa Tour. So you'll basically, for the price of 1, you're running for 2 point series, as well as they're obviously Luskville Dragway points also. But to have 3 of the Super Tour races at Luskville, for a driver from Belleville or Kingston, and obviously the local guys, and Montreal is pretty much the same distance as Belleville. You know what I'm saying? Like Kingston, Belleville. I mean, you drive to Montreal. So we're kind of central now. When you get to the boys in Quebec City, they're a little further. They're another 2.5 hours, and some of those guys are 2 hours east of Quebec City. So they have a significant haul, but nothing unlike what we do when we go to Elliott Lake or Wawa or Grand Bend or St. Thomas or.
Absolutely. Puts everything, it guarantees for 3 events, put right in the center of,
Yeah.
Of Eastern Ontario, I guess,
Yep.
and Quebec. So makes it easy, nice to have everybody together, and then brings the best from both areas.
Absolutely.
In the middle.
I make no bones about it. I would put the drag racers that race on the Super Tour, and every one of them, Brandon, I would put those guys up against anybody.
Absolutely.
And you've been there. You've seen the trip zips that take place at the Bracket Bonanza, or the Super Tours races elsewhere. And again, we would certainly be open to an intertrack challenge with the boys from Southern Ontario, but it's one of those things where, people have to travel. Our guys, and the racers from our area, they don't hesitate to travel. Okay, we've had a hard time convincing the guys from Southern Ontario to come and mix it up with us. And that doesn't include guys like Jamie Tupper, Mike Newman, or, when Fred Ellis was racing, and a few others. But hopefully we will see more of those guys next year. There certainly has been indications. So who knows, maybe down the road we can have an intertrack battle. The Super Tour basically, it grew out of that. It grew out of, hey, we'll take a bunch of cars to Montreal. You guys bring a bunch of cars to Luskville, because racetracks need race cars, and race cars need racetracks. And there's no new racetracks being built. They're shutting them down left, right, and center. I just read just before you called me, Brandon, Richmond Dragway.
Yeah.
A very significant facility is shutting the doors. There's a big letter on Facebook from the owners that during the shutdown, he realized that there was other things in life to do. And all of a sudden, he's decided that he would rather do those other things. Drag strips, we're losing drag strips. And we really cannot afford to lose drag strips, because drag strips build drag cars.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's definitely, I saw the Richmond Dragway post as well.
Okay. Yeah.
And, something that I didn't relate to was, during the lockdown, all I found is more ways to be involved in drag racing instead of other things to do with my time. I still have no idea what else you would do. So we kind of talked a little bit about the Show Me Money tour that goes on as well, that you are involved in running. So that has 5 events as well. I believe there's still 5. So Elliott Lake, Wawa, the Bracket Bonanza, the Fall Bracket,
and the July 1st race.
And the July 1st Canada Day weekend. Absolutely. All awesome races. I love the trips up north.
I'll tell you, for anybody that has not been to one of the airport races up north, you got to go, because it's a different deal altogether. Okay. The drag racers are the stars. And they really are, okay, because this is something that comes to these communities once a year. We're treated like gold. The people of these towns are just incredible. And another perfect example, again, where the friendships that have been made because of this drag racing. And I think of Rob and Terry Sanderson, just prime examples, I'm saying, of people that we talk to constantly, it's such a cool deal. And I know for some people go, oh, well, it's an airport, it won't be any good. It won't be any fun. Well, you've been there, you've done that, Brandon, that it's not the case. It is good and it is fun and it's very competitive, so.
Absolutely. You can't take anybody for granted when you, when you roll out there, you pull up and a lot of older rides, right? A lot of cars that are much older than what I am. And it doesn't take anything away from it. right?
No,
It'd be just the same.
again, I mean, and it's been so good for the sport. Those airport races have built a whole bunch, and they are prime examples of my saying that drag strips build race cars. Those airport races have built so many race cars, and they've also given opportunities for people in Canada to sell drag race cars to people up there. I mean, so I can't say enough about how great it has been for our sport of drag racing, those airport venues, and what fun they are. Yeah.
I, as you said, I can definitely attest to that. I believe it was 3 years ago was my first airport experience since I believe we went when I was probably 10 years old, racing a junior. I went with my grandpa and my uncle Steve and my dad. We loaded up. We went to North Bay. Other than that, I hadn't been to another one. And then I went, I was fortunate enough to drive one of your cars for a few years and rolled up with the boys to Elliott Lake and Wawa. And it was a blast. I definitely.
Your grandfather was actually part of the Earlton race. Okay. He was one of the racers, Jim and John Chatwood again. Okay. And that's where it all started for us doing airport races was Earlton in 1995, it's, if you're not in this sport, it's hard to describe to people what it's like. Okay. But it is a different group of people that they're just, the relationships that go on are just incredible. We spent last night because we're in, doing our part with the lockdown, but we spent 4 hours with drag racers last night on FaceTime. Okay, so can't go to their house to have a beer, so we sat in our own houses and what did we talk about? We talked for 4 hours about drag racing.
Yeah.
And it kind of pumps you back up, and you're ready to, start thinking about the spring and getting back to the track.
Absolutely. I'm, very excited for it. Can't wait to get back, as Rachel would tell anybody that is usually all that I think about and all we have conversation about, for the most part, but, very exciting. I'm glad that we get to be, that I get to be involved in everything like that and involved in the racing family, at Luskville. And then, can't wait for it to keep growing and be more successful this upcoming year.
Yeah, it's we're looking forward to it. We know that we've got lots of work to do to get it ready for. We like to think of it as the grand opening, but we know that we have some things that we've got to look at improving on, because we believe that we will have, and you were at the Bracket Bonanza last year where we were pretty full, and I'm thinking that we might be bigger this year. I know that Peter up north has been working hard to get as many cars from up north to come to the Bracket Bonanza, and we're working really hard to try and get more people. We hope the borders are open. We got to get our buddy Frank Mark back up.
Right.
Yeah. And they're, Frank hasn't bought his Bracket Life brand t-shirt yet, has he?
He is not.
Oh, well, I'll get on his case. Okay.
That's right.
He's been a little quiet the last couple of days. So.
No kidding. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No doubt in my mind. So I guess we'll kind of wrap it up here a little bit, Arnie. So the last kind of question I had for you is, so what would be some advice you would give somebody new to drag racing or that wanted to get into the sport? How do they go about it? What should they focus on?
Wow. Well, I'll tell you, and I hope you got a little bit of time for me to, I had a phone call from a guy in Newfoundland yesterday. I spent 2 hours on the phone. He'd gotten my name, and they were talking about, they want to convert an old airport into a drag strip. And they wanted they want to know if I'd be involved or interested in getting involved and helping them. And I said very clearly, but my advice to them was, be prepared. It's not as easy as it looks. And that's the same for drag racers. And we talk about it quite often. We talk about the drag racers that come and go very quickly. And they are usually people that don't look at the whole thing before they get into it. Okay. They don't look at the cost, the time, that it's not as easy as it looks when you're sitting in the grandstands to do what you guys do. So I guess the best advice is, in most cases, is for people to start at what we call the lower classes. You don't need, you do not need $100,000 race car to go every weekend and have fun. You can do it on a very small budget. But there's an old saying that if you want to go to heaven, you have to die. And I think that's what is the best advice for drag racers or people that are wanting to get into the sport. It's not as easy as it looks. Okay. It takes a tremendous amount of dedication, a tremendous amount of work. The money, we all know about that. Okay. But again, you can get into it money-wise on whatever level you want. Okay. You don't have to have a $400,000 tractor trailer, and you don't have to have a $100,000 race car, and you can have as much fun as the people that have that. Okay. But there is really no sport like it. And I hope that people read the Luskville Dragway website on Monday morning, because we've got something that is very clear about what we're talking about right now, with the announcements that are going to be made on Monday, type thing. And of course, a little plug for the website too.
Absolutely. So that's a good one. So we'll all be tuning in. So the video will come out Monday morning. The Luskville Dragway update will come out Monday morning. So then everybody will, get to see it and check it out. I'm excited to hear it. I'm excited to see what's going on. It'll be exciting. I'm excited. That's why, doing this stuff, then I get more worked up about it, right? I just want to get going. But
well, I'll tell you, Brandon, what you're doing, what you and Rachel are doing is good for our sport. Okay. And I applaud you for doing it. I've often said, and you've heard me say it 100 times, that drag strips build drag cars. Shows like yours can reach people that all of a sudden might become interested, and they go, what's this all about? So we'll do everything we can to promote what you're doing. And I'm not sure if you've noticed or not, because I don't know how often you go to the website, but your logo is right on the front page.
Absolutely.
We feel that what you do is important, and we hope that everybody joins in and supports Bracket Life Brands.
No, I appreciate it. No, for sure. I've checked it out, seen it on there, showed everybody who, whenever it does come up, I showed them all that everything that gets posted about us and how much we do appreciate that. So absolutely, as we've talked about many times before, my grandfather did this for years, right? Yep. So I would like a racetrack for one day, when I have kids, that they can do this as well. So, I want the sport to grow as much as anybody. I love doing this, love being involved in it. So I appreciate it a lot, and, hopefully we can all be successful moving forward. But all right, well, I think that's about good for right now. We got through all on the old list there. So, but we'll keep in touch for sure.
By all means.
Out Monday on the website, and this will be posted. So that'll be everything. Everything's all good, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Great on. Thanks, Brandon.
All right, Arnie, I appreciate you being on and taking the time to do this.
Anytime, buddy.
Thanks a lot, bud. Have a good one.
Yeah.